you and welcome to some extreme metal review. Why do I have this weird accent? Because it doesn't really make sense at all, coming that this band is from Australia. So let's welcome Order of Orias with the second album called Ablaze. This is from the Aussie Friends, which created their first full-length album in 2011 called Inverse. And while that was certainly an interesting release, blending some doom metal, some death metal, and some black metal together, it wasn't really nailing either of those, not any of those corners. That was also released by World Terror Committee, as is this one called Ablaze, and this one, my friends, is a lot better release. Now, while Inverse was definitely decent, but not fully enjoyable in my opinion, this one is pretty much fixing everything. And now Ablaze is more than ever black metal. Now you can still hear some doom metal and some death metal parts in the music, or more like a reminiscent. It's very much the kind of dark and sinister kind of a black metal. Not so much leaning on high tempo as it is leaning to more like mid-tempo parts, slow tempo parts, and in general certain kind of doominess, if you will. There are, however, still some faster parts which get your blood pumped and all that stuff. This album runs some 6 tracks and some 39 minutes. And that should kind of give you a pointer that these tracks are not exactly short ones. But Order of Orias manages to keep the whole thing kind of interesting because there is this variety not only with tempos but also riffs. And sometimes these riffs are plain weird, and there's parts which I kind of feel like, I wouldn't say allergic, but kind of like, hey, why is this riff here and what it is doing right there? But the overall is that the band manages to kind of use this diversity into their own advance. That is, they managed to create an interesting release which has multifaceted kind of layers. So once again, when you're like, okay, it's this mid-tempo stuff, then it comes this weirder riff, and then it comes these faster parts, and it's like constantly changing throughout the chorus, being able to kind of capture something that most bands are not. So what I really like this band is kind of a timeless piece. It doesn't really sound like 1990s release. It doesn't really sound like your typical second wave black metal release. But it sounds like very modern, and at the same time it doesn't seem like, hey, this is some third wave thing where these bands are trying to pushing kind of a modern agenda or anything like that. But more so kind of picking 90% of this black metal dark atmosphere, then having these weirder tempo changing and riffs, and having these layers of death metals like some growlier vocals, not fully growling but still. So it's kind of like it has these doom death vibes, which then again seems to change the whole feeling on the album. And given that this album has all these layers, most bands would just outright fail it. I mean, when you go too much into different direction at the same time, you're kind of like bound to disappoint all the audience in all these genres. But Order of Orias somehow is able to keep the horses on track. It's like they kind of tease you going a little bit too far, and then they don't. So it's always keeping this music very, very interesting. And being the production and the vocals overall quite nice, I really don't feel much of a complaint here. I think the album could be even further with their style, and they could definitely have even more, say, something to remember, to kind of catch even more, I don't know how to describe it in fact, because I know if I'm going to use certain set of words, people are like, okay, once again, you're bitching about it. Let me just say, it could be even better than this. But still, that being said, this is definitely a good album. And that's one of the reasons why I already requested this album when it came out in 2020 spring. But it was a little bit delayed, call it Corona, whatever. But here it is finally. In case you missed this during April or May, now it's your chance to correct that mistake and check out Order of Orias, Ablaze. A good album which totally deserves more attention, at least if you ask me. And you did ask me anyway. Anyway, take care and see you with more reviews coming your way.